Hello, hello. Good morning and happy Wednesday. Yes, 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 folks. It is that time. Let us get our day going. So, if this is your first time joining us, hello, my name is Sadie Uribe, and I'm the media producer for the Los Angeles Regional SBDC. The SBDC is a national program with over 1,000 locations across the country, helping to stimulate economic growth through business advising and development. The LASBDC offers no-cost services through funding provided by the U.S. Small Business Administration, SBA, and from the California Office of the Small Business Advocate. It's your tax dollars at work. The Los Angeles Regional SBDC network operates 7 service locations throughout Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties. Our services are also offered virtually. We are here to help. We empower small business owners by offering tailored solutions through personalized one-on-one business advising, cutting-edge workshops, and comprehensive programs, all provided at no cost. We are dedicated to supporting your entrepreneurial journey every step of the way. Lori, I felt that one. I feel entrepreneurial today, where I'm like, yes. Well, I'm like, let's learn some new stuff, Lori. We always learn lots on Wednesday with you.
Oh, yes, you do. Absolutely. So, are we ready to get going? I have a screen just full of things all over there. I am giving you a link right now, Sadie. I changed my mind. I have a link for today, so you'll know what that means. That was a little communication between Sadie and I. We got each other always knowing what's going on. Okay, guys, let's get started. We got a fun show today. As always, I say that every week because it is true. Okay, the CFO series, and Sadie is putting the links in with the date. Gotta tell you guys though, this will be the last time I'm offering this series. So it will be gone after this month. So hopefully you can join me for it. Still would be doing the one-on-one to go over the finance, but this series will not be coming back. So next week, I can't believe it's the end of April already. I'm still planning out May. I do not know where all these months are going. But next week, I have Zamara coming on. You know, so much new happening in HR all the time. I have to have her on regularly, just like in accounting with Dahlia. And there is also a need for a discussion of AB5 because a lot of people don't fully understand how that affects their company. So we always talk about AB5, and she'll be telling you about some more things that are going on. And I think also we'll talk a little bit more too about the contracts that are needed when you hire an independent contractor, because that's now a state law and most people don't know about that one. So even if you don't have employees, you think HR, not employees, we're talking about things just about hiring contractors in your company as well. So you can catch a lot of information you may not know. Then at the end of the month, I've got Sebastian coming back on. Love having Sebastian on. Spend some time. He is engaged in financing and funding of companies. So I just wanted him to kind of come on and give us an overview of what's going on, what he's seeing out there, how people are funding their company, just kind of a checking in and seeing what's happening on that scene. Now, for Lori's Corner, here is my words for Lori's Corner, and let's jump into Lori's Corner today. We're going to be talking about something I talk about quite a lot. So, what I would like to do is today, I want to clear up something that is confusing and it's scaring a lot of young entrepreneurs right now. And when I say young entrepreneurs, I don't mean age, I mean new to the experience. So everywhere when you go on social media and from companies, you hear people pushing LLCs. And what they say is if you don't form an LLC, you're going to lose your house and everything you own. I'm amazed at how many clients literally say these exact same words to me. They actually feel like it's stupid not to do it. I even had a client that in a meeting, she was almost in tears because a family member told her that she was ruining their kid's future by running a simple website design as a sole prop. Okay. So let's cut through this fear with some real talk. The truth is, for most low risk idea stage businesses, think web design, think freelancing, gig working, selling at the farmer's market, many of the consulting solopreneurs that we have, whatever you're doing, any new or concept that hasn't even been sold yet, the chance of getting sued is actually pretty small. Stats show that somewhere between 36% and 53% of small businesses face a lawsuit or threat each year, and about 90% deal with one at some point in their life. But when you look at micro businesses like most of yours, under several hundred thousand of revenue and low physical risk, serious lawsuits are rare. In my 40 years as a consultant, yep, it's getting up there, I've almost never seen one. What does happen most often, where I have seen it, is unpaid invoices, issues with vendors or clients not making payments. Those are the number one lawsuit small businesses see. And if it's under about 6,250 on average in California, it goes to small claims court. Super simple, no lawyers needed, and the judge basically asks, were the services delivered? Most get negotiated or settled out of court because full litigation is just too expensive and time consuming, okay? So here's something important that most people miss. Even if you do get sued, the expensive part is usually what is called the discovery phase. I talk about this a lot with my clients. It's the back and forth of documents, depositions, and lawyer time. That alone can cost tens of thousands of dollars before you even get to trial. And an LLC does not magically pay those bills, guys. The money comes out of the business, your pocket, okay? This is why proper insurance, and I'm not always big for insurance, but I tell you, I am a huge fan of errors and omissions or general liability. It is the smarter first step. Good insurance covers your lawyer fees, your defense costs, even if you win, often less per year than the cost of even the $800 franchise fee, right? And remember, if there's gross negligence or someone actually gets hurt, the LLC shield doesn't protect you personally anyway. It comes under civil liability. So my point is, before you rush to form an LLC because TikTok told you to do, ask yourself, is my business model actually high risk? Or am I just testing an idea with no chance of a real lawsuit? For most of you starting out, you can keep it simple as a sole prop. Get the right insurance for your specific risk and save yourself the extra complexity until the business actually grows. Okay. So, bottom line, don't let fear based marketing push you into something before you need it. Protect yourself the smart way with the right insurance and the right structure for your business model. Okay. You got this. Keep it simple, stay smart, and build at your own pace. I had Sadie put a link into Hartford Insurance. It's one of the bigger ones. They got a great page talking about errors and omissions. That's why I gave it to you. I'm not saying you should buy Hartford Insurance, but for those that are unfamiliar with what errors and omissions are, go there and check it out. Okay, guys, that is my Lori's Corner for today. Let's get to the fun part today. I am so excited to have Tiera Click back. Tiera Click is a Joy Strategist. Love that name. Certified neuroscience coach, mental health educator, and founder of When the Mind Clicks, a leadership development and systemic wellness company dedicated to helping individuals and organizations bloom to their highest capacity. Originally founded as a mental health and personal development platform, When the Mind Clicks has evolved to support leaders in the workplace, the home, and the classroom, because the person who sets the temperature shapes the entire system. Tiera's work is rooted in the belief that people are often expected to perform, heal, and lead without being equipped with the tools to regulate, reflect, and rebuild sustainability. Through her neuroscience-informed and system-based approach, she equips change makers to strengthen emotional regulation, improve communication, and enhance executive functioning, creating environments where people can truly breathe, perform, and bloom. Tiera, welcome back onto the show. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you for having me back, Lori.
Okay, I told Tiera I have to announce this right at the beginning. So Tiera was first on the show. We decided it was last March. And I sought out somebody to come on the show to talk about mental health because many of you were going through the fires at that time. And I felt as though we just needed to address the sadness and the difficulty. Well, as Tiera is on the show and her, focus is really mental health, all you in the audience wanted her as a business coach. You were like, oh, how do I get, and I kept saying, Tiera, they love you. They want to contact you to be their business coach. And she's like, I don't do that. I don't do that. And she actually gave me a referral of somebody that came on to talk next. Well, guess what? I get an email about a month ago. Tiera says, hey, I'm into leadership development now. And I'm like, gotta get you back on the show. So I would say she's been formed a little bit by customers saying, no, you need to be over here doing this. So that is such a great story. So welcome back, Tiera.
Yes, no, that worked out so wonderfully. It's
See,
funny.
we make businesses. We make businesses on this show. We create opportunity. We make sales. We make businesses. You come on the show, you don't know what future pathways you will take. So,
Right.
Tiera, for people that are new to learning about you, let's go through kind of your history, what you had been doing. Did you always want to be in this space? Were how did you end up here? Kind of a little bit of a take on your background.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I ended up in the mental health space altogether, just based on lived experience, getting myself out of a slump and applying all the tools that I learned to get to where I am today and sharing that with other people. But then going into the workplace, I've been in the mental and behavioral health field for 10 years. And I worked in crisis support as a forensic psychologist. I worked in residential treatment centers. I've been a therapist and all of these things. And within the last 2 years, I decided, let me start my own business, take my own path in how I want to support people. And I started a business as a mental health educator. I call myself a Joy Strategist because I want to help people achieve joy through all of my lived experience, all of my knowledge in psychology, some neuroscience, and mental health tools, communication tools, relationship building. All the things that I've learned over my experience can help support you to beat the drums of liberation, right? I want people to feel free. I want people to feel joy. I want people to move from survival to liberation and bloom into the best version of themselves that I know they know is possible, you know?
I just love it. The words and the way that you speak is motivating within itself. It's like I feel joyful just listening to what you're saying. And, because I think it resonates with me, I figured out a long time ago, very long time ago, that the absolute most important thing to me was freedom. And
Yeah.
freedom had to do with really getting out of my own mental constraints and my own constant chatter from that other Lori in my head that sets out to make myself feel bad that day when I wanted to feel good. And I think
Yeah.
the more that you are a go-getter, the more you try to accomplish, the more that voice can come up. It's like it's almost the people are the pushing the limits sometimes can have the loudest voice as well. So I think mental health is so important. I want to first begin by picking apart a word that people hear you say, but they may not know exactly what it means, and that's neuroscience coach. Can we start by defining what that is for everyone?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in my position, I'm not a neuroscientist, okay? But I studied neuroscience, went through a coaching certification because I realized that a lot of the tools that I was providing for individuals based on psychology or my lived experience, there were also people who were very logical and analytical and don't, resonate with like the mental health route or the psychological route or faith-based route. So I'm like, okay, how can I explain to you that these regulation tools work in a scientific, logical, analytical way that you can
Yeah.
receive it, right? So when I began studying neuroscience, I really wanted to focus on um, just the different possibilities that your mind has the ability to form new pathways for you to evolve into a different version of yourself, right? That's neuroplasticity, right?
Right.
And when I talk about neuroscience, I really do focus on moments where our amygdala takes over. So that's our brain's chihuahua. It's our brain's, you know what I mean? They're gonna bark at everything, whether it's a real threat or not. You know?
Our
Uh,
brains, wow.
Right. So I let people know that that's why your executive functioning gets kicked offline. When your amygdala hops on, your prefrontal cortex gets the boot, right? And your prefrontal cortex is your brain's engine, the administrative team, your ability to focus, plan, organize, regulate your emotions, be clear, prioritize time management, have a vantage point of yourself. All of these things go offline when your amygdala is dysregulated. And for leaders, I really felt that it was super important to explain that to them in a way that was more logistic for them, you know? So that's why I decided to also begin researching science-based tools as well.
You know, I think it's interesting that over the years, it's like the science and the neuroscience aspect is coming and kind of actually meeting up with almost, let's call it the Zen Buddhist type, science as well, right?
Yeah,
And they're starting to realize that many of the emotional states we enter into can be actually tracked and measured now. And I think
yeah,
that's really fascinating. And I think the neuroplasticity of the brain is one of the most exciting acknowledgments. That means at any given time, it's not like when we're a kid we can grow and learn. We can be whatever age and suddenly change our
yeah,
whole existence in the world,
yeah.
physically as well as mentally.
Yeah. And that's what's important to double down on. Like, I'm not just saying these affirmations. I'm not just saying have hope. I'm telling you that neurologically, as long as there's not a physical cognitive impairment, your brain can rewire itself to new experiences if you're willing to get uncomfortable and make the changes. Right.
And that's the part, if you're willing to get uncomfortable and make the changes,
Yeah.
that is the habit forming. So as we get started in kind of going down this pathway that will probably go down multiple pathways, one of the things that I just want to bring up is the word thoughts. I know
Mm.
that probably many people have heard your thoughts create your reality, and we're talking about affirmations. One of the things that I had the fortunate engagement with early on was neurolinguistic programming. I'm an actual NLP practitioner, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
never talk about that, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know you wouldn't have expected that. You're like CFO tax. Now she says she's an NLP practitioner. Where did that
Yeah.
come from? I know, it's a shock, right? But that's where I'm familiar with a lot of the terminology too. But it really came about back in, oh my God, I was probably like 25. That's how long ago. And it was like Anthony Robbins was first coming on the scenes with a
Yeah.
little bit of NLP. But once I started, I mean, I wasn't intending to become a practitioner, but once I started learning about it, it educated me to how I could have more engagement with my thoughts.
Yeah.
And then I realized, and I started saying from my late 20s, I have one thing to focus on, and that is my thoughts and my emotional states. If I could understand my thoughts and my emotional states, I would have the power to really tap into all my potential. That was kind of my theory on that, right? And
Okay.
now I'm going to be actually 62 on Saturday, and I'm a living example of it. I really, really am. So let's, wherever you want to go with that, I think when you're talking about leadership development, we're really getting down to our thoughts and what we think about ourselves, et cetera. And I just want you to go wherever you'd like to go with that.
Yeah. A few things came to my mind, but I'll start with one. um, when you said leadership development, I wrapped around to a different thought. Self-concept is something that I really love to focus on when I'm working with change makers, leaders, those who are about to create a ripple within their culture, their family, their organization. Because your self-concept, right, your appraisal of yourself, the thoughts you say about yourself, the words you speak to yourself. So connecting back to thoughts
Yep.
are important and they impact the way that you show up, right?
Yep.
They impact the way that you affect the people around you, and it impacts your sense of self. So when I think about thoughts, I really do like to focus on building and enhancing self-concept, reframing your thoughts, reframing your perspective, challenging cognitive distortions, which cognitive is your brain, right? And distortions are when the the way that your thoughts and your brain are receiving information, they're a bit distorted, not true to the reality of what's happening, right? So paying attention to those sort of things are super important. But the first thought that I had before jumping into self-concept is that everything that I study and apply aligns with getting your thoughts in order, right? So like I said, I do lived experience, faith-based, psychology-based, and some science studies, right? And all of them lead back to your thoughts matter. Your
Yeah.
thoughts impact your opportunities, your reality, your actions, your behaviors, right? And your thoughts become your actions, and your actions turn into your reality. And that's solidified in each of the spaces that I just shared about. So yeah, I'll start there to spark something up by either of those topics.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because it also, to me, it identifies the energy you're going to have for the day.
Oh,
You know,
100%.
it's like when I started realizing that, I understood, that hey, I could actually drain my energy within 2 seconds of thoughts. I can wake up
Yes.
fully energized, ready to go at it within 2 seconds of thought. I'm ready to take a nap.
Yeah.
Or the opposite, I could be tired in 2 seconds of thought and I'm ready to go conquer the world. And I think when we talk about entrepreneurship, we can't miss the fact that energy is required to do whatever you're doing.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I tell people all the time, anything you invest in will yield fruit. So if I speak to myself negatively every day this year and I think about myself negatively every day this year, by the end of the year, I'm going to hate myself, right? Or feel low self-esteem or what have you. If I change my thinking and practice a positive thought or at least a neutral, sometimes people think you have to shift from negative to positive, at least get to neutral and then get to
Yeah.
real, you know,
Like that. At least make
you
it
know, but
neutral.
if you think that way enough, it will eventually yield fruit and your self-concept will change and your thoughts about yourself will change and opportunities will open up. Anything you invest in will eventually yield something.
Yeah. Now, Tiara, I think this is true. I mean, I'm not somebody who reads up on it and study and can say it's true, but I keep hearing that people are more have less, or let's say have more mental health issues than ever. People are less happy today than they used to be, especially
Okay.
younger people.
Mhm.
You hear about that. And it's definitely concerning, that we're not as happy as a species as we used to be. Now, I remember when I was younger, you didn't really, when you were young, you thought about being happy, but you got to a certain point where society just said, happiness, yeah, just get a job and get this. And, you really didn't like strive for happiness. You always thought,
Right.
well, if I get it, I get it. And I love that it's come out that we're striving for happiness, and entrepreneurs definitely are striving for happiness. But did we get lost somewhere in the strive for happiness? I don't know. What's your thought on why it seems like individuals are more stressed and less happy when there's
Yeah.
more opportunity available than there ever was?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, One piece to the answer is when there's nothing to really strive for, that does take away excitement, passion, meaning, right? So if things are easily accessible, that does have an impact.
Uh,
But on the other hand, to just play both sides, I don't know that I necessarily know that we aren't as like, or if this is the lowest amount of happiness that we've been. I know that we
mm,
have a lot more statistical data. I know that we have a lot more access to seeing people's emotions, but I know that in the past, a lot of people suppressed emotions and wouldn't share whether they were happy or
okay.
not. And, so I actually, in that particular realm, can't really speak to that because I don't necessarily know that we are, or if there's just more of a magnifying glass on it and a spotlight on us, and people are more willing to be more vulnerable and expressing their discomfort and their unhappiness, right? And
Good point. Yes,
yeah,
good point. I love that. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, you're right. When I was younger, people wouldn't walk around and say, if somebody said, oh, I'm unhappy, they go, get over it. It wasn't
right.
even an expression.
It
It
wasn't an
was,
option.
no,
You didn't
no,
have that check
yeah, no, no,
bubble.
just get over it.
Yeah, yeah. So no one would
Grow up. Yeah,
complain.
yeah,
There was no vulnerability. No one would complain. And then prior to generations before that, there was probably limited documentation on emotional well-being, right? It
right,
was more
right.
about household statistics and livelihood and, things like financial and households and things like that. But in terms of emotions, I think present day we are more tapped into understanding, noticing, and trying to manage emotions. So I do think we're in a space where we're more vulnerable and actually trying to achieve a balanced state more vocally.
I like that, and I agree. I think that, when people say we're moving backwards, I kind of think we're on the edge of change. I think that we're just all on the edge of change. We're
Yeah.
looking at maybe we want to be something different, and change isn't always pretty.
No.
It's just not. It's not. So there was a word that we used before we started the show, and I thought I'd bring it up and let you kind of go from there. So we talked about self-leadership. What is self-leadership?
Yeah. Self leadership. Um, I think of self-leadership as the desire and actually equipping yourself to turn into the leader that you would like to be. So, like me, I say I'm a forever student, right? So, self leadership is the desire to be a forever student and continue to learn and take accountability, right? There's a lot of responsibility in self leadership. There's a lot of discipline or accountability, at least, that comes with that. Self leadership really starts within, and yeah, it's a certain level of responsibility, awareness, accountability, and initiative, right,
Yeah.
to learn, to grow, to guide yourself, even when no one else is watching or cheering.
And okay, I would love to drill deeper on this. We use the word accountability. A lot of times I hear the word discipline. It's a
Hmm.
given. Entrepreneurs have to be self leaders, they have to be disciplined, they have to be accountable. I think that is one of the most needed. I don't know whether you call it a skill or a
Hmm.
trait here. I don't know where it classifies. All I know is it's important. So let's talk about that because I don't think everybody feels they're good at being accountable. I don't think they
Yeah,
necessarily feel they're a disciplined person, but I think everybody is capable of it. So I'll let you just take it from there.
yeah. When you say that everyone's capable of it, even when they feel like they may not have that ability right now, I think of it as a skill because skills can be
Okay.
learned and honed in on and taught whether you were born with it or not, right? So I do think of it more as a skill. I don't know if trait is finite or not. I think you can learn traits, like I'm trying to think. But I would categorize it more as a skill, right? Because discipline can be practiced and learned. But again, it comes to feeling comfortable with getting uncomfortable, being willing to unlearn, right? Whatever you were modeled or whatever you were taught, being willing to sit in discomfort or sit in quiet or sit and do things that are like not born or not interesting, right? um a lot of times we get really restless and we're like we want to do the next exciting thing. I have it bad as an entrepreneur. I'm
Yeah.
like working on this workbook because my creative juices are flowing, but then I have to do this, but then this seems more interesting, and then I'm like no, but I can get these journals out, and I'm doing what seems the most fun. But to grow a certain level of discipline, it's like no, it's tax season, sit down.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Yes.
Right, stop working on the workbook, that's so fun, and do that particular thing, and it's uncomfortable. But when it comes to discipline, you have to be mindful of your capacity and your personality type. For me, discipline comes easier when I break things down into micro goals. And when I say micro goals, I mean like today, open your laptop and sit it on the desk and take a break.
Yeah.
Log
Yeah.
into, you know what I mean, TurboTax and go get a cup of tea, watch an
Yeah.
episode of a show, come back, set up a call for you to get a call from that person. Now it's out of your hands. They're going to call you regardless. And now you better be ready for when they do, like
Yeah.
literally working on your personal executive functioning style. So discipline looks different for different people. And just being mindful that your personality and your capacity will impact the way that you show up in your discipline.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you said. It sure. When you said it, I thought about yes, it would be a skill. I've always been uber disciplined, and I just think of it as a trait because I've always been that way. But
Well,
I had,
okay, that makes
yeah.
sense.
But that's where, but when you said it, it made me think. But you know what? Then I was thinking a little more into it, and I think, and people have always envied my discipline, and I've thought a lot about it, and I think that my discipline right now is just a skill and a habit from so many years, but I honestly believe that my discipline came from a fear of not being in control of things. Okay. So
Mm.
I don't think,
Hmm.
I always would
Hmm.
tell people, don't go, oh my God, you're so disciplined. No, I'm afraid of failure. I'm afraid of not being in control. I'm on top of everything because I'm afraid something may fall apart. Right. So
Right.
is I think that the big elephant in the room when we talk about accountability and motivation and initiative is also still that old nasty fear of failure, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, 100%. Going back to the amygdala, right? Or going back to that is like when you're in survival mode, whether you recognize it or not, that gets in the way of your executive functioning, like we talked about earlier, which is where your discipline lies. So, what people aren't, I don't think, realizing is that their amygdala might be more hyperactive or more on guard, which puts you in a state of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, right? Fight is pushing forward, getting into it, right? Moving forward without the processing if I'm in survival mode. Flight is avoiding, getting away from it. I'm running away from it, right? Freeze is stuck, potentially procrastination. Potentially you can't even connect your thoughts and complete the task. And then fawn is kind of like just shrinking, getting small, maybe trying to, placate to whatever's happening around. But when that happens, even if it's not on a large scale, your discipline goes out the window. And I think a lot of times people don't realize how much they're placed in survival mode when a project comes up or
Yes.
when a deadline approaches. For me, it was almost crippling to do like extensive work on things I wasn't interested in. And it put me in survival mode. My amygdala was like beep, 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 which kicks all the admin team offline, which is where like it felt like I had no discipline when really I was just constantly operating out of survival mode, even if there wasn't a real threat. Like this assignment, this deadline felt like a threat. The amount of work, the fact that I was going to do this and it wasn't enjoyable, all of that felt like a threat, so that sometimes happens.
I think that is a subject that could be talked about forever. And that is, I do believe, and I speak from my own biography, but I think a lot of people can relate that they're living in survival mode. And like you said, you're starting your company. Am I going to get any customers? Did I spend the money? What am I going to do? It just sets it up for
Yeah.
this constant survival mode. And the one thing that I recognized really early, but I couldn't stop, is that survival mode ruined all my creative juices. It took me
Mm,
out of the ability to solve. It's like, the problem came, I went and I was like shutting down on it was kryptonite. That's what I'm trying to say. It was like the kryptonite, remember
yeah.
Superman, kryptonite? I think that was right. Right. And so that's what's so sad about survival mode. It robs you of exactly what you need. And I think that is a main thing that a lot of I see entrepreneurs in every single week. So can we just elaborate on any processes or considerations or anything that somebody in the audience can take away to say, am I in survival mode and what can I do to start getting out of it?
Yeah. Yeah. At any given moment to identify if you've just been placed in survival mode, I think it's important to be aware of your emotions, like be able to actually clearly identify what's happening and how it's impacting your thoughts and your behaviors. So that's like the starting point. So whenever something happens and you notice a shift in your body, don't just move forward. Acknowledge the emotion that's present. And I'm not talking about, oh, I'm sad, oh, I'm angry. Get specific because there's categories of sadness, right?
Yeah.
So if you say, oh, I'm feeling sad, I'm just overwhelmed, I need a little more clarity. I feel rejected. I feel grief.
Yeah.
I feel disappointment. I feel abandoned. I feel, all of those things are going to require different tools. If someone's feeling grief versus someone who is feeling regret, those are two, they're both sad, right? But
Right.
I'm going to show up differently for both. So they're going to require different tools. But when you're able to specifically identify your emotion, disappointed, rejected, right? Acknowledge that emotion, bring awareness to it, put a little spotlight, don't try to change it. And then notice on a scale of 1 to 5, how much is it impacting your thinking and your behaviors? If it's starting to impact you to the point where it's hard to connect your thoughts or your thinking's becoming fuzzy or you want to just get it done and push forward and have the conversation right now without stopping. If you're hurting yourself, hurting others, destroying property, whether it's on purpose or not, right? Any of those things will let you know I'm not regulated right now. This is not the time to move forward. I need to get a little more regulated so that I can move forward. If you're feeling those kind of thoughts based on whatever emotion you just shared, you're probably in survival mode. So that's not the time to problem solve. That's not
Yeah.
the time to go express yourself. That's not the time to try to get a relationship back on track, right? Because how many times have we been operating from survival mode? I'm feeling anger, but it's frustration, right? And I'm at a level 4 where it's messing up my thoughts and making me want to power forward. And one foul sentence ruins a 10-year relationship because I was
Yeah.
operating from survival mode. And I'm not saying you need to get rid of the emotion, you're allowed to have it, but there's tools to express yourself, which I could go over at some point if you guys wanted to hear that. But there are tools that you can use to express yourself in that moment to actually get your needs met instead of be counterproductive because you were operating out of survival mode. So,
Yeah, one thing I noticed, and I've been talking about this quite a bit. I meet with so many clients per week. I get a good sampling, and I'll be talking with them, and I'll just point out something, whether it's a financial or a legal. It's so obvious, and they're not seeing it. But the minute I say it, it's very obvious to them, and they're intelligent people. And I keep
mhm.
saying to myself, it just seems like more than I've ever seen before individuals are shut down and not thinking. Okay. I don't know how else to explain it, but I get off the phone or the Zoom calls and I think they're smart, but they could not see this. And when I speak of this, I'm speaking of things that are harming them financially in their business and stuff. And so it
Yeah.
really is important to see these things. Do you have any insight as to what may be going on in my little story I'm telling here, that it seems like I'm dealing with the entrepreneurs that they're just not present. They're not
Yeah.
present. They're not seeing. They're not focusing. And any thoughts to share with individuals on how to maintain a presence
Yeah.
and tap into your power is what I'm saying. I'll let you go with it from there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what you're saying sounds like survival mode still, right?
Yes.
To
Yeah.
not be present, that's the freeze response,
Yeah.
right? Or maybe even a flight response. Get out of
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But sometimes it happens because of imposter syndrome, right? Feeling like you're not worthy or confident enough to be in this space, so I might as well just detach myself. It could be emotional suppression, right? This is actually really overwhelming, so it's better to numb myself to it and not be fully present or engaged so it doesn't impact me and ruin my day or what have you. Um, it could be, it could be a handful of different things why people are feeling that level of disconnect. But when you're not fully present, it does make it harder to show up more confidently, and then it does impact those other executive functions like your memory. That just a little side note, it's so funny, sometimes people are like, I have such bad memory, but I'm like, were you present?
Were you
you know
present? Yes. Were you present? It's so true. It's so
yeah.
true. Yeah,
um
absolutely.
yeah, but I do want to understand the question a little more. I don't want to get too
No,
off track.
you did. I mean, like I said, I was giving you just something so vague. It's just, I noticed that, I think it has to do with presence. And I think I'm going to go back to something you said before. And that is, I might be saying it not as you did, but the micro task. I
Hmm.
think they are, I'm going to use just a word, scattered. I find people are scattered. They're all over the place with their business and they're not able to stop and focus on one part. They're just like a little bit of survival mode, but it's also a scattered. And I think that if we, and I have to do this a lot, I can get overwhelmed because I think
Yeah.
about everything I need to do. I get scattered, I can't connect, and then I get in survival mode because I'm afraid I can't get it done, right? It's just like boom, boom, boom. And then when I get into this, what do you need to do right now is the question I always stop and ask myself. I think that's a very good training. So can we talk about, techniques that people can do to get into that micro task, to get into the presence, to get out of the survival mode that we're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, when you show up very scattered, it's one or two things. Either your executive function is offline because of survival mode, or you're in a restless state, which when you're too restless, it turns into self-sabotage, right? I want to do the next interesting thing, the next big thing, the next da 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 da. But going back to sorry, I just lost my train of thought. So scattered thoughts, um, restlessness. What's important is to, I think, for people to engage in things that are equally challenging and interesting. That can help us to stay on track a little better and organize things a little better. So if we want to get in a state of flow, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? So that we
Yeah.
don't have so many scattered thoughts and feel like all these things, this became boring, now this became exciting. I think it's important that we pick a position or job or something that brings equal amounts of challenge and interest so that it
Mhm.
locks us in on engagement and makes us more willing to stay organized and on top of it, because if something's too interest, or it's like super interesting but not challenging enough, you're going to get bored after a while, right? And if something's too challenging but you don't have an interest in it, it's going to become overwhelming and feed into the scattered nature, right? So trying to
Yeah.
find a way that gets a sort of balance, and then also going into micro goals, micro habits, breaking things down so that you're not so scattered. And whether it's like when I say micro, I start very micro. So if I have like a whole desk of things to do, the first thing I'll do is put all the science with the science, all the math with the math, all the history with the history. And then after that, start breaking down, okay, this is neuroscience, this is biology, this is quantum physics, okay, this is algebra, this is statistics, this is addition, but sorting things out that work well for your mind, you know. Yeah, so I feel like I just got a little scattered.
No, not at all. No, and I think what I find is I even did this yesterday. I got this huge project going on, and I felt like I needed to meet a deadline. And I told myself, no, you need to set aside a couple hours just to organize, just to clean up the area, because I had to
100%.
get the area to not be scattered. I was reflecting the area as well.
Yeah.
And I think there's something in there. I want to bring up the imposter syndrome. I had I mean, maybe it was around, but I feel like I've never heard the word imposter syndrome until maybe 10 years ago. And
Okay.
yeah, I never had heard about it. And it wasn't maybe in the popular language, right? But
Yeah.
I'll tell you how many clients have said that they feel like an imposter. They have actually used those terms. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't have come to you and said, I think from our business audience, we need to talk about the imposter syndrome. But I've noticed that I've had it said to me by my clients so many times, I think we need to talk about it. What is it? How does it affect you? And how do you get out of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So imposter syndrome is when you feel like the spotlight is like on you and you are feeling like I'm not ready, or I don't belong here, or people are going to realize I'm faking it, or I don't belong in this space, right? And the truth is, if you're sitting at that leadership table,
Yeah.
you're there for a reason, right? But you have to remember that. You have to tap into the reality of that, because no business wants to lose money. So if you're, feeling imposter syndrome in a board meeting because you're sitting at the table with all these heavy hitters, I'm pretty sure they didn't place you there for no reason. So one, tap into the reality of that. But it's not easy, right? Because there's an internal narrative. There's a story you're telling yourself. There's a past experience that is happening, and it's impacting your ability to be present, to lead, to make decisions, to be visible. And the scary thing about imposter syndrome is that if you allow it to take over too much, that actually will impact the way you show up and subsequently turn into reality. And now they're gonna be like, he never speaks up. I mean, where's his confidence? Does he even know what he's talking about? When truth is, you are equipped to be there. So building on the reality of the situation. If I'm in here and they put me in this position, then I belong here. And even if I feel like I don't, this is an opportunity. Maybe it's an opportunity that God opened a door for me, right? Let me take advantage of it, right?
Yeah.
Um, but also um building on confidence and self-concept, like we talked about. So reframing your identity, unlearning those narratives or those past experiences that you went through, and letting yourself be comfortable in this new position, which is, it's going to be uncomfortable, again, sitting with the discomfort, but practicing each day, speaking up or adding a contribution or adding your opinion or your notes. And each time you do it, you will get stronger and better at it. But you have to work on your self concept. So how do you work on self concept? You work on your self awareness. Do you know what's going on in your body? Do you know what emotions are showing up? Do you understand why they're showing up? Are you able to manage them? You work on self esteem, the worth, how you see yourself, the value you allow yourself to have, noticing your strengths. You work on self care, right? And that's, being proactive, not waiting until you experience burnout, but taking care of yourself. And yes, it's bubble baths and getting warm tea and weighted blankets, but it's also setting boundaries, right?
Oh,
Self
yeah.
care is also
Oh, yeah.
being around people who value you. Self care is also not breaking promises to yourself, right? You work on self accountability and self trust. You work on all the selves, and that's how you start to enhance your self-concept, which will kick imposter syndrome right out the door. So
Okay.
working on self-trust is super important. So if you don't show up for yourself, your body's not going to trust itself,
Right.
right? So you want to build more self-trust so that you know why you're in the room, right?
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think that the most important relationship we can engage in is the relationship with ourselves.
yeah, absolutely. And that can really combat the imposter syndrome,
It
right?
does.
But
I
it's
think
not
that
easy.
no, it is not. But I think that it is going to determine everything else in your existence, absolutely everything in your existence. I've just noticed over the decades now that when I changed the way I had a relationship with myself, everything around me changed. I even got to
Absolutely.
where I have the Lori out loud sometimes, where if I'm really catching myself, I'm like, Lori, why are you being so mean to Lori today?
Okay, right. Speak to yourself the way you would speak to a dear friend,
Yes.
right? If
Yeah.
your friend didn't pass a test, you're not gonna be like, you're so stupid, you're never gonna make
No,
it. You
no.
will be like, you could take it again. Why don't you ask your teacher? Why don't you? But the way we talk to ourselves is like so chaotic.
Oh, it is. I have this long-standing joke I say to myself. Okay, guys, I'm telling you. I always say, Lori, you have to stop. We already went to the judge. We applied for divorce, and the judge said that there was a conflict of interest. We had to work it out.
Okay. Okay.
We can't get a divorce from each other. We're stuck with each other. So someone's got to come to a compromise here.
Yeah, right. I'm with you forever. We got to
Yeah,
figure
I'm with
something
you.
out.
Yeah, we got to figure something out about this. But I think it's so important. And another word that you brought up, and those that are with me all the time knows that when I say the word, I'm like, Tiera said my word, discernment. I have always believed that discernment was of utmost importance, but I feel for, I would say anybody younger than me, because I feel like I didn't have to have so much discernment and learn how to have discernment at the same time. And now I feel like you don't even know what is real anymore. And
Yeah.
discernment is screaming for attention. And I think people are struggling with discernment a lot. And I think that feeds right directly into them without them filtering what they're being influenced by. That's
Yeah.
my belief on it. So I'm going to let you run with what is discernment. People hear it all the time. Let's talk about what it is and why it matters.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say discernment is that ability to make a sound decision
Mhm.
based on how you see the situation coming out, right? Discernment is, yeah, let me stop it there. I think it's the ability to make sound judgment.
Yeah.
I'll
Yep.
just end it
How,
at that.
yeah. So how do, with so much, entrepreneurs have to go out and gather information. Could be, like I said, from should I open an LLC, right? They're out there gathering information. Not against social media, but I'm just saying there's a lot of information out there that's not valid to what they're trying to achieve. Is
Yeah.
there a process that we can give them, even a checking mechanism, a self-checking, to try to educate them on how to have more discernment when so much information that may be coming to them? I mean, it's the worst thing, Tiera. They got to get information, and the information that's coming them may not be correct. It's like a catch, and they're so busy trying to
Yeah.
figure out. I have so many people when I get them out of bad legal structures, they say, I thought I did my research, but I didn't, and I just had to move forward, and I feel for them. So that's
Yeah.
the scenario with discernment. They don't even know what's true enough to figure out how to go about having discernment. Okay, I'm talking in circles now. I'll just let you
Yeah.
go with this.
No, I think the first thing is because there's so much content on social media
Yeah.
is the person you're watching and getting education from, do you align with them and their values? And have you checked out their page and do they seem like someone you actually would resonate with if you had interacted with them in real life? Or are you just taking it because anyone can post anything? I could go post a video right now about how to create chocolate milk. You know what I mean? And I have no clue how to make chocolate, but I can post it and it can
Yep.
get a million views and
Yep. Yep.
everyone.
Yep. You could.
But if you
Absolutely.
go to my page, you'd be like, wait a second, she's never done this. She does mental health.
Yeah.
So do your, do your due diligence to like
Yeah.
go check the person out, first of all. But also think about when we were in school, when we wrote essays or papers, we had to give resources. We had a
Yes.
works cited page, and you couldn't just put one. You had to put like 3 to 5 different works cited. So using your discernment and remembering that as much social media as you consume and stuff like that, you still should probably check 3 to 5 other works cited. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I saw this video on astral projection and I loved it and I love what they're talking about. Now I'm gonna go look it up myself. I'm gonna read an article. Then I'm gonna go to YouTube and watch a full length video because the video I first saw was a TikTok short. Then I'm gonna, next time I'm in the library, if I'm really interested, I'll actually check out a book, just making sure you're doing your due
Yeah. And
diligence.
then maybe I'll go to the Monroe Institute that's been doing astral projection for how
Okay.
long? And it's really
You
well
know?
known. And then I got a valuable source on
Yeah,
astral projections. Yeah, because we talk about astral
exactly.
projection. Yeah.
And
So,
take the Harvard approach and go have conversations with
yes.
people who are talking about astral
Yeah.
projection, right?
Absolutely. See, and I think that I love that you brought up the essays and the resources because I was actually talking with somebody that said, why is it that so many people are getting ill advice? And they said they connect with the influencer on a person and then they don't look to say, well, does this influencer know about this topic? And they just
Yeah,
run with whatever topic that they're providing. And unfortunately, many don't have discernment in the advice they're giving. They're not like, am
yeah,
I qualified to give this advice? And you don't
yeah,
see a lot of discernment on that. It's become, can I get a like? Can I get,
yeah,
my YouTube channel up? So it's very
yeah.
true.
And they don't have imposter syndrome.
No, they
They,
don't. They don't.
they,
They don't. Yeah. Yeah. If you want to see no imposter syndrome,
yeah,
it's rampant. I think we actually got more problem with no imposter syndrome than we
yeah,
have with imposter syndrome because it's so true. I can remember back at, this is even back when the Macintosh came into play. I realized that, it kind of changed the playing field because before that, people that were into traditional typesetting had a skill and an expert. And all I had to do is if I looked at a Mac, I was an expert on design suddenly. So I
yeah.
started to see that all you got to do is claim you're an expert and you are. So it's so true. Oh,
Right,
Chris
right.
just wrote
Yeah.
anti-imposter syndrome. I like that. We got the okay, Chris, this is great because next time you run into somebody and you want to be a little arrogant to them, I do believe you have the anti-imposter syndrome. I love that. With our time that's left, I want to talk about your leadership program. I want to leave the guests with understanding of what it is, what you do, and then of course, Sadie will put your information in it. Any
Absolutely.
programs or anything, please tell us all about it, getting in touch with you, etc.
Absolutely. So you can connect with me to come in and provide leadership development workshops. So I'm available for one-time workshops or contracted workshops if your organization needs someone on the leadership development team. And I make it extremely engaging. I break things down. I bring the clinical terms as well because, again, some people want directly, but I also break it down and make it digestible, get everyone involved. And I even want the higher ups involved. Like I want the leaders in the team. I want the manager in there. You know what I mean? But so you can connect with me for workshops or you can connect with me for one-on-one coaching. If you just me and you talk about what's going on, tell me a little about what's getting in the way, and we will take an approach to help you bloom in the workplace, to be more productive, to help scale the business, to help, you know, your relationships and your communication. And not directly, I'm not like a marketing, like, here's how to scale, but I'm talking about what I will do is help you to build confidence, your self concept, to get out of your own way, to practice communication skills, to help you with conflict resolution, emotional capacity, optimizing your executive functioning, getting your wheels really going for productivity. All of those areas are where I can support. And that is where you will start to heal and grow and then take the skills that you already know you know how to do because you're in this job and shoot for the stars from there. um so we have the workshops, we have the coaching. I actually also have a workbook coming out. So the corporate workplace is coming out soon. It's an interactive workbook for people who are really busy and can't really attend the workshops or the coaching. But go to my website or just email me directly. Or you can even message me on LinkedIn. I see Sadie's put it in the chat here. Um, yeah, so my website is www.whenthemindclicks.com. Or you can email me at thrive@whenthemindclicks.com. So THRIVE at whenthemindclicks.com. And yeah, let's set up a consultation and see how I can support you in your development.
Wonderful. I noticed that when I speak with clients, a lot of them will talk about having some kind of coach, and not talking about necessarily business, but just for them to help them understand what's going on and deal with the complexities of running a company. And, one of the things I got to a point after living a certain amount of time, I kind of started laughing at life where I realized this one thing. It's like there were certain lessons I was going to have to learn. And it didn't matter what I did, it was going to be the teaching ground. It could be with a relationship, it could be with a friend, or it could be within my company. I could be
Okay.
like, okay, I'm going to go do my company because then I'm away from this growth and stuff in the universe teaching me lessons. Oh, no, right here it is smack in your company, right? It doesn't matter. It follows you and looks for
Yeah,
opportunities for you to grow. And I think with so many people putting themselves on the edge with a company, it's yeah, I say the universe because it's just my way of communicating. It's like, oh, look at this. We got lots of opportunity to bring up those shadow things to work on. And so I think
yeah,
that the increase of entrepreneurship is also a wonderful but challenging ability to increase your awareness and
yeah,
assumption, about yourself, et cetera. I think that's where we're getting more and more of this coming together. I do believe that. So
absolutely.
as we come to the end, I want to give you some time to any advice to all our entrepreneurs out there that are struggling with just about anything imaginable, or any advice in general. You have such wonderful stuff. Please take it anywhere you want to go. You've got a couple minutes. We're all ears for you.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, if you and I work together, my goal is to help you to regulate, reconnect, and reimagine what's possible. Okay. And I think it's so important that we learn to regulate our nervous systems, notice when we're operating from survival or lack of confidence or things like that, regulating those things so that we can show up as our most optimized self. Okay. We have there's no limit. You know what I mean? There's so much room for capacity. Reconnecting with your essence, reconnecting with, empowerment, reconnecting with the people around you, your relationships. That's so important, right? Getting your relationships on track, making sure you're understanding if your relationships are healthy. Are you around people who value you and value themselves, right? Or do you have to start setting some boundaries and really following through and really being mindful? Are you working on how to connect with others in your communication and expressing yourself, right? And then reimagining what's possible, because anything is possible. Get clear on your standards, get clear on your values, get clear on your desires, get clear on where you can contribute, where you can help, where people really enjoy you and your strengths shine, and reimagine what's possible for you, because anything is possible as if we have faith, align our emotions, and make a plan. Okay. So,
Yeah, it's so true. People have heard me say on the show, and I've said this for years. I always say, in my life, there's magic fairy dust.
yeah.
I don't care
Okay.
what's going on. Yep. I always say my life has magic fairy dust. Sometimes I make myself see magic fairy dust. I'm like, I don't care. There's magic fairy dust in my life, and that's how it's going to be.
Okay.
Yeah. Just like, remember when in that Christmas thing, and he had his few little magic fairy dust and the reindeer flew. I got that
Yeah.
magic fairy dust. But yeah,
Right. Oh, we got a fairy over here.
yeah, we got the fairy. I got the magic fairy dust. I know it's called, when you've been on planet Earth long enough, you pick up all these little things. Oh, and look at, I got a little fairy over there with my magic fairy dust. Oh, I just noticed it. That's so
Yeah.
cute. That's so cute. Well, I'm going to end by saying, Tiera, this is what I love about you is that I have been saying a lot that, we got intelligence, we got information. We really don't need more intelligence and information right now. Is what we need is wisdom. And what I find with you, and you say it, you bring your life experiences, you bring the science, you bring the psychology, you bring it all together in such an alignment that you're able to talk about the whole self, the whole
Mm.
self. You're not like saying, I'm just going to talk about your mental, but well, okay, but you're an entrepreneur. That doesn't mean anything. No, you're taking and figuring out what is it about us that we can bring together all the aspects so we can be the most powerful and bloom, as you say it. And that, my dear, is wisdom. That is wisdom. And that's what I love. And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today with us. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate that. I appreciate your words and I appreciate what you just said. I really did internalize what you just said. So thank you for sharing that and acknowledging and just yeah, I love that.
Awesome.
Thank you, Lori.
You're welcome. Sadie, we're going to bring you back to close this down today.
Yum. That is literally all I can say. Where it's like, you know what? Like, this is why I love the community that you've created here, Lori, where it's like, I don't know, like when this first started off, I started kind of going with the thing of like manifesting in the sense of like how we speak to, to ourselves, to one another. Like, let us believe in us. Like, let's make the magic, the fairy dust happen.
Yep, it does. Okay, guys, Sadie's staying behind as she always does. She's getting information on Tiera. Please check out all her offerings, her YouTube, etc. If you want to reach out to me and Anonymous, go ahead and email me questions. Sadie will give you an email address and I'll answer your question. And other than that, I have to say thank you so much, Tiera. I feel great after the show. Thank you so much, my frequent flyers that are here every week. And tune in next week for Small Biz Talk with your host, Lori Williams. Bye, everybody. I'll see you next
Thank
week.
you,
Bye.
Lori.
Bye, Lori. All righty, guys. Well, you know the drill. We are going to hang out for a little bit because I just want to make sure that you have everything that you need. I definitely want to make sure that if you want to get in touch with Lori, that I'm putting that info in there for you. So I'm putting in this email address, resources at smallbizla.org. Just be sure you put Lori's name in the subject line, right? Because as you can see, this it's called resources. So I just want to make sure that I get this over to Lori. So please put Lori in the subject line. If you are not yet a client of the SBDC, please sign up because these are your tax dollars at work. So imagine getting a business subject matter expert in what you are looking for. Like we love Lori, so she is more of like the finance, dealing with government, not government, but your corporate structure. What if you need help in marketing? What if you need help in business permits? What about health requirements if you're opening up something in the food industry? Like we have subject matter experts in all fields. So we connect you to one another. So just because you have one business advisor doesn't mean like that's it, that's the only person you talk to. Like, no, we connect you with all the other people. So let us help one another, right? Like let's put this, positive, I would call it manifesting, speak to use. Let's get this done. All right, now I'm feeling like a cheerleader over here, but that's just how passionate we are over here at the SBDC. So I'm going to put myself on mute. If you need anything, please let me know so we can get this boat going. All righty, guys. Too much coffee, I tell you, too much coffee.